Hello everyone, welcome back to another Q&A session with Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee, thank you for joining us once again. We will
Thank you.
now begin our question. The first question we have for you is, there are clear signs of similarities between Xi and Putin to Hitler's personal cult strategy. What is this personal cult strategy exactly?
Oh, that's a very interesting questions. Last lecture we examined the lot of similarities between Xi, Putin, and Kim Jong-un. You know, getting some similar tactics, probably learned from Hitler's strategy. So it's simply about how to maintain the political power in a kind of personal, you know, reign. So that means more omnipotent personal figure, how to maintain. That's omnipotence. So, so in this case, they don't want any systematic transfer of power, as we normally experience in democratic nations, like elections and power transfer. And even in the communist system, there were, collective leadership change after Stalin in the Soviet Union. In China, after Mao and Deng Xiaoping's era, we see some signs of collective leadership transfer, as explained. But in this case, a personal cult strategy, one person trying to maintain its power for a longer period of time, even though there are some kind of quasi-democratic institution or constitution, as we see in case of Putin. And so the personal cult strategy kind of invites lots of, military force along with kind of propaganda minister. So trying to manipulate people's mind and also internal secret police, like a Gestapo of Hitler. And also, we need a lot of personal bodyguards, like SS of Hitler, so that this kind of personal cult has a problem of absolute power. And we have a wisdom that absolute power will be absolutely corrupted. Early in high school, I learned, I don't know much about physics, but one interesting law is kind of second law of thermodynamics. So increase of entropy, increase of disorder in a natural, uh, in a way, it's a natural law. So any absolute power is getting corrupted. That's kind of natural law. So that's why. So this kind of personal cult strategy, did not last long, will terminate at some point of time. So it is a strategy of maintaining personal power. That's the personal cult strategy.
Thank you so much. The second question is related to it. You shared about the rise of China and Russia and the comparison of their leaders' use of the cult strategy to Hitler's. What should we be prepared for or expect from China and Russia in the future?
Yeah, so that seems to be the biggest challenge in the years, the decades ahead, that we have to, you know, think hard and work hard, but we should be prepared. So that's something I want to talk about in the next, last lecture. But what do we expect from this kind of new rise of China and Russia? Unlike Hitler's era, one big difference is nuclear weapons. So Hitler did not have nuclear weapons, even though he tried again. So this nuclear threat is really imminent, even in Ukraine or in other parts of the world, even in Middle East. in the Korean Peninsula. So in case of Russia and China is a huge geographical area, you know, from the Asia East end to Europe, and also enormous economic and military power Russia and China exerted. So that kind of threat, they will seek more likely multipolar world. They try to exert their power involving territorial expansion that I mentioned. But one other most bigger threat is the unprecedented collaboration between the two powers. That was unlike really during the Nixon administration, Carter administration, the the Kissinger's ideas to divide and conquer. So that I heard was his kind of last will before Kissinger died. Be wary about the collaboration between Xi Jinping and Putin, but it happened anyway. So other than just the personal bond between Xi Jinping and Putin that I explained last time, there is a systematic kind of interdependence between the two powers that is more worrisome, at least to me. So in case of Russia, they do have a highest military technology, and Russia also has enough fuel, oil and gas. Russia has enough food. That's unprecedented that Russia has. That three areas China's in need. The high military technology, China need that. Fuel, China desperately need. And food, of course, Chinese people need that food. That's interdependence. In case of China, there are a lot that China can provide to Russia. Huge commercial technologies, high, like biotech, the electric vehicles, batteries. That is really utmost technology that China attained, along with a lot of, goods, not really cheap goods anymore, very good, products we use in America every day. So that kind of foods, things that really need of Russia. So those two states can be very much interdependent systematically. That's more big threat. That's why many analysts, including me, expect more longer interdependence, unlike kind of previous era of opportunistic and transactional relations between Russia and China. So yeah, that's the big problem. So we need to find ways to drive a wedge between China and Russia. Yeah, dictatorship. We know there's a fundamental flaws in a dictatorship country. So we'll talk about more later.
Third question is, why hasn't there been widespread recognition and action done of the decreasing economy of the biggest communist nations, as China and Russia, from 1992 to the 2000s? Is there a correlation of economic growth to national ideology?
That's very, interesting and an intelligent question. And, why has not been a widespread recognition and action? So during the times of 1990s to 2000, there's the opposite. China's economy is very rapid growth. Russia dropped by 40% in GDP, struggling in kind of opposite way, but later, kind of maintain, mm, in a positive growth in both countries. But from the U.S. point of view and kind of euphoria of the United States that we ended, imperialism, we ended communism, the Soviet Union. So as I said, there's some sort of, comfort. That's natural. And then sort of naive and wishful thinking that everything will go well everybody will follow American way of happiness, lifestyles. So policymakers might think many experts might, including me, think that time will, solve the problem. But that was wrong. That was based on wrong assumptions that we have that these countries and these people will follow just economic incentives that the United States we provide, and they will just take steps and catch the bait, step by step and following us. But not really. They hide their strength and buy their time, as I talked last time. So that was the reason why we missed many clues that Russia, showed its innate desires. The Chinese, shows their innate desires. That's probably what I can say. And can you repeat the second part of the question? That was very interesting.
Yes. Uh, is there a correlation of economic growth to national ideology?
Yeah, that's the actually one question I answered in my graduate school uh, quiz and test. Very interesting because it was like a rapid economic growth and dictatorship. Kind of, there's a correlation. National ideology kind of involving dictatorship. So I remember what I answered, but Kim Il Sung certainly has a dictatorship, 주체 national ideology, but until 1970s and late 70s, it worked. So North Korean economy is much stronger than South Korea. But no more. There is a certain kind of trap that dictatorship, this national ideology cannot overcome. And what about China? The Chinese leader Xi Jinping's 중국몽, Chinese dream, national ideology. So now it's a testing. Chinese economy is very slow after pronouncing this national ideology. So it means that we need some autonomous kind of driving force to go beyond that kind of economic kind of stage of hurdle, kind of advanced economy. So we'll see how China would overcome that hurdle of a certain historical context. So many countries in South America, uh, economy was booming under the dictatorship, national ideology of nationalism, nationalist forces, but many failed in South America and Central America. But in case of South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and Singapore, like so-called, four dragons or four tigers did a different path because of democratic forces kind of bringing up together with along the dictatorship. That in Japan, a little different cases. Like in Japan, there was a Meiji Restoration. That gives us a big power. But later, Japan take the step to democratization. So autonomous power. Remember, dictatorship kind of paralyzed the autonomous nerve system, just like a human body in a society. So without such a autonomy, autonomous power, democracy, the capitalism cannot be fueled, go further. So in case of South Korea, Taiwan, in Singapore, the dictators, remember Lee Kuan Yew, prime minister, famous, but positive sort of dictators. But Singapore's huge economic growth along with democracies. So there is a certain correlation between economic growth and kind of dictatorship, national ideology, but it's not always that way. There's many elements we cannot say it's correlated. So one thing I want to see in the future is whether how China's, controlled economy can manage the decades of kind of capitalist exercise. So that's the test. Not China is it.
Question number 4 is, with the growing power of the communist nations, what does it mean for the United States?
Yes, that's that in terms of same questions like China and Russia, Xi Jinping and Putin's rise, that will be, maintained some years, more than 10 years at least. So many analysts expect 2 or 3 decades, we're going to have this kind of tension. So we, America, should set up what kind of world do we want after such a struggles and threats and, that expand challenges of Pax Americana. What kind of world do we imagine? But problem is in American politics, internal politics, we don't have any consensus, of course, but we don't have any internal discussion between Democratic Party and Republican Party during the presidential election. We don't have such a vision. That's really big kind of problem to me. So that somehow we need to discuss what kind of world America should project in the next decades to come. So the first thing comes first. I think the Kissinger's advice again first. That's thing, divide and conquer. Divide and conquer in terms of nuclear state of China, Russia, North Korea, and potentially Iran later. But China, Russia, and North Korea is now, conformed, of course, nuclear states. So it's an imminent threat. So North Korea, last time we examined that they finished the test of ICBM, and it is imminent threat to Los Angeles. And in New York, Manhattan, where I'm living, I clearly remember 9/11 attack. It's not just airplane attack that North Korea wanted to do. It's the most symbolic attack by any satanic forces, the Manhattan. Most dramatic scene that Satan wants. You know how many buildings in Manhattan, unlike other places in the world. So that's something we gotta do, divide and conquer between China, Russia, and North Korea. We can do it. I think I have something that we need to discuss in the next lecture. Where's the weakest point? Where's the Achilles gun? Where's sort of chicken's neck that we can squeeze and, kill the chicken? The neck is the weakest point in China. In case of Russia, Achilles gun is positioned in the map in North Korea. Imagine the Russia map as a huge, immense bear hovering the continent. Actually, one foot is on adjacent to North Korea, like Achilles gun. So we'll talk about more. So that in that case, the United States think about not just the traditional Kissinger idea of divided power, because it's not enough. We saw that in the last 30 years. We need cultural healing, religious healing place, and new education. And we need an economy that is more kind of interdependent, not just kind of heuristic attitude to just follow me and giving economic bait to capture the American, bread and meat. So we need some kind of respect toward the world. We means the United States. So I think that kind of way the United States should found some kind of what's the future world the U.S. is pondering. That's something I want to discuss more in the next lecture.
Question number 5. What do you think is the most important factor in the next elected president's attitude or approach to relations with North Korea?
Yeah, that's the one of the most interesting and important questions in regard to Korean Peninsula. And I've been thought about that. So one thing I came up with the first priority is sort of mutual respect, kind of sincere dialogue with a mutual respect. That's not easy for the American politicians and policymakers, mutual respect, because we've been, you know, brainwashed, inculcated by so many negative things about North Korea. And there's I understand a lot of objective data of wrongdoings done by North Korean regime for the last many, many decades. So in one of the lecture I did in Yale University, and one students that I vividly remember, they questioned me, what on earth can you tell me one good thing from North Korea? That was an interesting question, remember. So I was wondering what good thing I can tell you about from North Korea. I was hesitant. So I understand there are many bad things we can think about from North Korea. But we need a deep sense of more mutual respect. So leaders, next leaders, think about more deep-seated historical, cultural perspective, not just the regime itself, but look at the people of North Korean people's nature. They are industrious, loyal, intelligent, and they've been living through lots of adversities. You know, that Japanese under the Japanese colonial rule, hardships, North Korea, Korean War hardships, Cold War hardships under Kim Il Sung. North Korean ordinary people has been under hardship for a century or more. They didn't experience any good things in their lives of grandfathers, fathers, and their generation. They don't know about democracy. They don't know nothing about human rights, such things. They've never heard of such a thing. They heard about Joseon dynasty human rights because Joseon's dynasty king probably much better than North Korean leaders, because Joseon dynasty king, you know, has to do a lot of things. The kings were not free. A lot of, things they need to do. So, so that the mutual respect is something that new leaders of United States to think about the North Korean people from people's perspective. Second thing is that, American policymakers like to see map, the world map and line, but I want a leader, the next leader who like to see inside of the map. What's in there, that contents and details and people inside, to understand its culture rather than containing, rather than blocking enemies and friends, go beyond. So I want the new leader who can see the inside of the things in the map. And thirdly, and finally, it's the leader who do not commit priority failure. I understand there are so many things the U.S. president should think about and deal with in everyday, in office work, but someone who see the clue, the key region, in politics, in deep seated, so that so that don't just delay I understand North Korea is important. North Korean ICBM is important. Oh yeah, but Xi Jinping is bigger and Putin's, you know, nuclear weapons are much more. But yeah, I understand. But someone who can see in a balanced way so that no more failure of priority. So that's some elements I want to see, kind of mutual respect and see the contents inside, not just map and line. Go beyond the block, and then think about the concurrently, so that no missteps on the priority.
The last question we have for you is, how can we contribute to promoting cultural and religious healing on the Korean Peninsula?
That's something that very important, that in a final stage of our lectures and discussion what we can do. So I've been talking about the United Nations peace zone that turned from the current Korean DMZ, demilitarized zone, that has been there for the last more than 7 decades. So the peace zone should be neutral and anybody can come to be healed, and healing zone culturally and religiously, and get a new education, multiple languages. And we can even establish a real hospitals for physical healing, you know. So no visa area, UN Peace Zone, and UN Fifth Secretariat, UN Fifth Office, so that near 200 or more countries representatives, their families, children, go to school, you know, land of really hope and peace and harmony. That's that way I can the US can find a way to project a new future, because in the US is controlling uh, the southern half of current DMZ, and North Korea is just protecting. So depending on US attitude, North Korea will change. So it's a containment, kind of deterrence line, as a DMZ is no longer in effect. It was effective. It was good policies. I'm not saying it was bad policies at all. It was good for the last 70 years, containing communism, deterring, North Korean threat. But that's not enough. We need to go beyond that kind of bloc politics, Eastern Bloc, Western Bloc, Communist Bloc, Democratic Bloc. It's no longer possible. So, that we need a place that help understand this kind of cultural, religious healing and education, along with including United States, regional powers like Russia and China, Saudi Arabia, whoever, Iran, they think they are regional powers, uh, come and interact and be interdependent and get benefits out of interdependent relations, economic and cultural way, not a competitive interdependence. That's something I think we can achieve through the UN peace zone on the Korean Peninsula, and we'll talk definitely more about that the next lecture and discussion with more pictures and so on. So I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lee, and this will conclude our Q&A session. Thank you, Dr. Lee, and we will see you all next time.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.